Hi, welcome back to Mommying Unconventionally. I am Tasha, and today I am going to make Zuppa Toscana. It is my copycat recipe from Olive Garden. It is very, very delicious. There's a couple of things that I do differently, which is I substitute the pork Italian sausage with some turkey Italian sausage, but I still keep the bacon in there just because there's some ingredients that you can't substitute without really compromising the integrity of the dish. So with that being said, I'm gonna keep the bacon in there, but I'm gonna cut some of that pork and add some turkey sausage instead of pork sausage. So I've already prepped most of my ingredients because this is a crock pot meal. I have also done it in the Instant Pot, so if you have questions about cooking it in the Instant Pot, reach out to me, message me, and I will give you instructions on how to do that. But if you have the time to start in the morning or start midday, you only need a few hours, but of course the longer in the crock pot the better. You only need a few hours though, so if you start midday, you'll be good to go. So if you have the time to do it, then doing it in the crock pot is perfect. So I have the time today. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and show you what goes into the crock pot. Then after a few hours, for the last 30 minutes of the cooking time, I'll add in my kale and my heavy cream and show you what that looks like. And then we'll see the finished product afterwards. So let's get started. So I've already cooked some Italian sausage, some turkey Italian sausage. I got the sweet Italian sausage and I added a little bit of crushed red pepper to it just to add a little tiny bit of a kick because, as you all know, I absolutely love spicy. So that's what I did. Next that I'm gonna add to my crock pot is I have cooked some bacon. I used a whole pack of bacon and an entire onion. Because this makes quite a bit of soup, so you do want to have quite a bit of meat in your dish. If you're cutting it down, like I'd say this soup will probably serve about 8 people, but we like to do leftovers. So if you're only going to be eating it for one night, then go ahead and cut, the amount of bacon in half and only do half an onion. So let's add the bacon and the onion. Then potatoes. So I have cut 3 russet potatoes into bite-sized pieces with the skin off. So that's what this looks like. So bite-sized pieces, good chunks, because you don't want them to be too small and then they end up getting mushy in your soup. So good-sized pieces, 3 potatoes, and they're probably medium-sized potatoes. We're gonna add that. And then our liquids. So once we have your meat and your potatoes in the crock pot, we're gonna go ahead and add our liquids. So I have a container of chicken broth that has already been opened. So I'm just gonna pour the remaining amount of chicken broth in here. This was a 32-ounce container and I have about half left. So this is about 16 ounces that I'm starting off with. And you can, by all means, make your own chicken broth. I do that sometimes, and sometimes I'll just boil water and add some chicken bouillon cubes in there, or I'll just buy a carton of chicken broth. It's a whole lot easier just to buy the carton. And I found a brand that actually tastes really good, so I'm good with that. All right, so this is a 48 ounce. So I've already added 16 ounces. I'm gonna go ahead and add probably this entire 48 ounces of chicken broth. So you do need quite a bit of liquid because, again, it's a soup. So you don't want all of your liquid to absorb and then you're not left with the soupiness of a soup, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and add that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and give that a good stir. You do want to make sure that however much liquid you do end up putting in here, that you have enough room in your crock pot for later when you're gonna add the heavy cream. So don't fill your crock pot to the very top with liquid. You wanna leave a little bit of space in there. All right, so now we're gonna season it. I have some Italian seasoning. I'm gonna probably add about 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning in there. And then some garlic powder. That's probably about half a tablespoon. Y'all know I don't do measurements. I need to start doing better with that, but I like to eyeball things. All right, so pepper, black pepper. That is probably about, I'd say, a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons, not tablespoons, about 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and the same amount of salt as the black pepper. The reason being why I'm being a little bit shy with the salt to start off with is because my chicken broth does already have salt in it. You can always add salt later on down the road because this does have potatoes in it, so those potatoes will absorb a lot of that salt, so you may need to add salt later. So as your potatoes start to cook, taste your broth, taste your potatoes. If you need more salt, by all means add more salt. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put a lid on this. We're going to let this cook for about 4 hours, and then after 4 hours we're going to come back and add the kale and the heavy cream, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so our soup has been in the crock pot for a few hours. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in the kale and the heavy cream for the last part of the cooking process, basically the last 30 to 45 minutes. Some people like to drop in their kale a little bit more last minute, but I like my kale to be a little bit more cooked, especially because I'm buying the bag kale and it has some stems in it, so I want those stems to get really soft. But you're going to add as much kale as you like to your liking. Now, just like spinach, kale will cook down quite a bit, so it might seem like you're adding a whole lot, but it cooks down a lot. So I've added about a half a bag of, I believe this is a 16-ounce bag. So added about 8 ounces of kale. I'm going to stir it in and kind of see what it looks like before I consider adding more. Alright, so I'm going to add just a little bit more, because again, I like mine to have a lot of kale. Okay, so that's about where I like to see it at. So make sure you get all of that kale pushed down into that hot liquid so it can cook all the way through. And then the heavy cream, I'm actually going to, because I like my kale to cook a little bit more, and I'm probably gonna let this cook for another 45 minutes. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer to add in my heavy cream. I'll add in the heavy cream maybe like the last 15 to 20 minutes of the cooking process. So kale is in there, I'll come back and add heavy cream. Okay, so my kale has been cooking for about 30 minutes and it had a chance to get really soft. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add in the whipping cream or the heavy cream so that it can get nice and creamy. I'm adding about 1 cup. And again, this is to your liking. I like mine to be kind of creamy, so I might do between a cup to 1.5 cups. And then this is where you're going to taste it and add more salt if necessary. And then let this cook for about another 10 minutes, and then it's done, and you can serve it up and sprinkle a little Parmesan cheese on there, and it's great. So enjoy. Let me know if you like this recipe. If you do end up making it, take a picture and tag Mommying Unconventionally. All right, guys, see you next time.